Hey, welcome to the pod. I woke up this morning and I was thinking about the link between creativity and spirituality. I think that they are divinely linked, and I'm going to tell you why, because being creative was a massive part in my spiritual awakening to bring me to this level of awareness. And I'm going to outline the points of like how it brought me to that sort of place that I'm in now and why I think you should start creating. Even if you think, oh my God, I'm not a creative person. If you're one of those people that's like, oh my God, not me, I don't have a creative bone in my body. Stop it. Literally shut the fuck up. Sorry, no offense. But I really want you to get through life in a beautiful way. And I know that not everyone's into like painting or podcasting or photography and all the things that I've done, but there's so many different ways to be creative. So many. It's not even funny. Just remember that creativity is essentially problem solving. So if you can use your hands and kind of get into the flow state and do a bit of problem solving, you're being creative. And if you decide you want to do something like artistic that makes it pretty as well, sweet, do that. Find your thing. Anyway, sorry. So passionate about that, but I swear to God, being creative makes your whole life better. I'm not just saying that as a creative. I've lived both lives and it's better. Okay. All right. This is why creativity is helpful for a spiritual awakening. To have a spiritual awakening, you kind of need to reach a point of awareness where you're an energetic match for the awakening, right? So like someone who always thinks things are happening to them is less likely to enter into a spiritual awakening than someone who recognizes that things happen for them. And the difference is there that like the person who recognizes that the shitty things that happen for them sees their own growth through that situation, right? They have a level of self-awareness where they can reflect and be like, oh, I grew so much during that and now I know X, Y, Z, so I wouldn't actually change anything. Instead of being like, oh my God, everything's so hard, everything's so bad and X, Y, Z and I'm stuck in this position and like this is happening to me and it's all a fucking shit show and I don't have any luck, blah, 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 blah. Like that's quite a low level of self-awareness and everyone can dip into that place. Like even highly self-aware people can have times where they sink into a low energetic vibration like that. But it happens way less frequently the more aware you become. And the more awareness you have, the more likely you are to go into a spiritual awakening or the more likely you'll be an energetic match. So that's why that's important. Oh my God, I just got out of breath from ranting then. It wasn't even a rant, sorry. Anyways, so where am I? Yeah, so creativity and learning to master something is a beautiful, fun way to bring yourself to a higher state of awareness. So if you think about like, you know, what I said before about struggles and things happening to you and them happening for you, think about the fact that the universe is going to throw you into something to learn whatever it is to learn that you need to learn for the next thing it is that you have to do. So if you're like, oh, I want to, I don't know, change my fucking life. The universe is going to show you all the ways in which your life needs to change. That's not going to be super easy, babe. Going to be a bit of a struggle, right? So if you're wanting to change your situation up or feel differently every day or achieve a goal or do something that you really want to do, you're going to have to understand that that's going to show up in all kinds of different ways. It's not always going to be in a way that you want it to happen. And you might have to go through hard things and hardship and whatever to learn these lessons. But the point of all of those lessons are not to beat you down, not to make you feel shit like you've had a really shit run and like it's just great for everyone but you. It's not for that. It's because every single lesson and every hardship that you go through is supposed to teach you something. It's supposed to show you what you're made of. And if you're like, oh, what about the people in the world who have really bad things happen to them all the time? There are people in those who have been in those situations who have come out and become like Olympic athletes or started like organizations that have changed the world or they've become like millionaires, like, and public speakers. Like the harder it is, the struggle, the higher on top you come on the other side. You just need to build the self-awareness throughout the struggle to get there. This is why I'm trying to teach all of you self-awareness constantly. There's only amazing things to gain from being self-aware. And creativity, my friend, is one of the most surefire ways to build self-awareness. And remember, with self-awareness comes along with awakenings and spiritual awakenings and all kinds of stuff. Like you can do anything when you're self-aware. It's like the best magical power to ever fucking have. And we all have the option for it. You just have to try. Anyway, so yeah, so basically the universe will keep throwing things at you so that you can learn whatever lessons you need to learn. And they're not always hard. Sometimes you get blessings come through and you're like, wow, and you're grateful for it and you still learn something. But wouldn't it be better if instead of just like leaving it all up to the universe to blindly like chuck shit at you so that you learn some lessons and you're blindly like, oh my God, why is this going on? What's happening? What if you just went through the process of mastering something creatively instead and had fun? Like, yes, you would still have a few things thrown at you here and there, depending on the context of whatever it is your next step is in life. But you'll learn so much of the lessons that the universe will be trying to teach you just through mastering something creative. And like, you're in the comfort of your own home like that. Like when you do that, like that's better, right? Oh my God. So anyway, like when this all clicked in my head, I was like, oh, of course I have to tell everyone. I haven't read Rick Rubin's book, but I have a feeling from what some people have said that this is similar. If you've read his book on creativity and this reminds you of that, let me know. I really need to read it. I bought it, but I hadn't read it. And then it was my friend's birthday. And I was like, fuck, I got to get him a present. I was going to dinner with him that night. And he loves Rick Rubin. So I was like, I'll just give him that book. And he loved it. He was like, didn't you buy this for yourself? And I was like, yes, but I haven't read it yet. And he was like, you're a dog. No, he loves the book. Anyway, so yes. So honestly, creativity will teach you self-awareness, thus lessening the amounts of crazy hiccups the universe has to send you to teach you lessons to learn these things. Okay, and I'm going to tell you why and what. All right, let's get into this. So through self-awareness and raising your consciousness, like you enter into this like meditative, creative hybrid state. And basically you end up in this place where you go through kind of like self-doubt and frustration and wanting to give up and head noise and like all these things until you get to the realization that being able to create is like a direct link to the universe and the channel of like wisdom and your higher self. And it's just like suddenly becomes the most amazing, rewarding thing ever. But it's not easy at the start. Definitely not. But it's so good for you. Now, I think everyone has like different levels of what they deem like easy to try all the way to the end of like, oh my God, I could never do that, but I wish, when it comes to creativity. So let's just say someone's like, oh, do a drawing of something just with a black pen and you can't lift your pen off the page and it can be literally anything you like. Like that's probably pretty easy. People would still be like, oh, I'm not creative. This is going to suck. Don't look at mine, Deborah. Don't. You know what I mean? Like that's going to still be a lot for some people, whereas for me I would be like, okay, well, and just do it and not care. But like I also get out of my comfort zone all the time and I get out of my own way all the time, and a lot of people don't. It's more easy for them to just beat themselves up and be like, oh, I can't do that, it's not really for me, when it's like actually you're just scared of trying that because you're scared of how bad you'll beat yourself up if you think it sucks, which it will at first. It's so rare that you create something and it's good first go. That is so rare, and that is not what builds a master. So anyway, if there's something on your scale of like, oh no, that's too hard to create, like even if I gave it a red hot go, I'm too scared to do that because I would love to do that so badly, but how am I even going to find the resources to do it? How am I even going to like XYZ? You're just like shutting the dream down before you even allow yourself to indulge in it, kind of thing. That I think is the mecca thing that you'll end up creating once you are at like your spiritual awakening point maybe, or around that kind of zone. For me, that's singing. Like I honestly, even just singing at home, I would just be minding my own business being like, oh, that sounds nice. And then my brain's like, what if I sung in front of people one day? And then I'm like, could vomit instantly. My voice goes shaky. My heart starts pounding. And I'm like, oh my God, you're still at home alone. Like you're just painting. Stop thinking about people listening to you. I am so scared of singing, but I want to more than anything. Oh my fucking God. Ugh, I could vomit with how much I want to sing. And I think I actually have the ability to. I think that I would be quite a good singer if I got out of my own way. So that's going to be a process that I go through eventually. But the one before that for me was painting. I was always like, I'd tried it. You know, as a photographer, by the way, I've been through this process before. This is why I know it in and out, because now I'm realizing the process from a state of like conscious awareness, whereas before I was just in it, driven by instinct. But now I can see myself from a bird's eye perspective. So I'm sharing all this with you. But So I did my photography thing and I learned the creative process. And then I was able to zoom through learning to paint because I used that same creative process that I learned when I was just instinctively doing it all with photography and videography and having a business and all the times that I've used it. And so I'd tried painting around, once a year maybe. And I would do like one thing and it would suck. And I would be like, but I'm a good photographer. Why am I a shit painter? If I could do one thing, surely I can do all of it. And it's true, you can. Once you learn how to master one thing, you can master anything, babe. Fucking anything. I just did it with painting. It took me like not even any much time at all. Not even any much time. I speak. It was easy, but it wasn't. It was very trying and hard and I had to get over my own bullshit and practice and practice and practice. But that's the thing. It's like the first one's never going to be good, but you can still master it. You just have to get through the hard bit. So I'm going to tell you all of the benefits of the hard bits. Like I'm kind of telling you now already, but, okay. So I was so convinced that I couldn't paint and now I can. And along that journey, I basically learned that my constant painting and other creative pursuits and everything over the past like year and 3 months is one of the big reasons that my self-awareness and my conscious awareness has risen so much in that time. Because like, first of all, head noise, like my critical self-limiting ego self would just beat me up when I was trying to paint. I would put something down on a canvas and instantly be like, this is dog shit. You suck. What are you doing? And I was like, whoa. And like, that's me. I'm pretty self-confident and pretty self-loving. But I used to be like, I think I'm like a perfectionist that's never really ever reached any kind of idea of her own version of perfection. So it's like I always had this perfectionism in my mind. I'm a Virgo, you know what I mean? It's like we can't help it. And I would just be like, why aren't I there yet? And then I realized one day with photography, I was like, oh my God, like I'm there. And that's when I realized I mastered something. But I actually now have learned on the flip side of that, that perfection is not the thing to be chasing. And it makes the whole situation quite sad and like never really fulfilling. Like it's only fulfilling, but then you do something else and then you're not finding perfection in that. So you beat yourself up. You know what I mean? So like don't aim for perfect ever with creation. Just don't, like actually don't. Like if you feel yourself trying to make something perfect, remember that your own individual imperfections are what makes the art specifically yours and perfect and creative, special to you in the first place. And one day, like whatever it is that you create, you'll probably look at a few other things that other people have created along the way to see how they did it. And you might look at theirs and be like, oh, the way that their brushstroke is so fun and like playful and carefree. It almost looks like cartoony, but it's like so relaxed, but still so great. Like, how do they do that? And it's like they just realized one day to let go of perfection. That's how they did it. It's just their individual brushstroke, but they do it with confidence and love instead of beating themselves up and trying too hard for something else. So you do that, get rid of the perfection. But anyway, back to the head noise. It sucks. And even though I'm at the other side of that, as far as like, seeing that thing about perfection that I just said and realizing that each thing that I do is exactly what it's meant to be, I still get some of that head noise now. It's way less frequent. Like at first, when you first start going into a creative pursuit, it's quite common and like you hear it almost constantly. And you're like, oh my God, why am I doing this to myself? Like it's such a masochistic thing to do, to be creative. Initially, because we live in this world that's like telling us that everything should look a certain way and be a certain way and you should be worth a certain amount of money and like, why are you doing it? If you can't make money from it, why are you doing it? Like that's the world we live in. So it makes you like question everything you're doing and hate everything you're doing. And it's like, no, babe, come back to home inside yourself and let it out. This is what it's for, fuck's sake. So the head noise is something that's really good to notice because it helps you out in your life in other areas, right? Like the more that I've been painting and the more I've noticed my head noise and the more I've learned to switch it off with my painting, guess what? I fucking apply that in every other fucking area of my life. Duh. Like, why wouldn't you? That's just fucking amazing. So painting and running's good for realizing your own head noise too. Another task that it takes like a while to master, but that's the thing. Like maybe if you're like, I can't feel like creating like right now, but I do want to still do this. I don't know, get into running as your gateway to creating. It's like the same beginning head noise bullshit. But no, seriously, please create. So yeah, I applied that to my critical, like, and if my body image had a wavering day where I was like beating myself up in the mirror, I would be like, oh, that's my head noise, like expecting me to be perfect and beating me up for not. being perfect or whatever, in whatever way, like whatever it is for you, you know what I mean? For me, it's like, yeah, it was always a perfection thing for me, I think. So anyway, that helps you in if you want to pursue a new job, if you want to ask for a pay rise, if you want to go out of your comfort zone in any stinking way, if you want to walk next to a mirror, like if you want to do literally anything and just like have a good time and vibe with yourself and not hate yourself and not beat yourself up, you need to learn to listen to your own head noise and your own critical self-talk, because that's in your own way more than you realize. It's so fucking sneaky. It is so sneaky. Sometimes I hear my own critical self-talk being so sneaky and I don't even realize. I'm like, oh my fucking God. And suddenly it clicks and I'm like, Esther, how have you been letting this happen? And then I hear it in that specific sneaky way from then on out. And then, you know, it's almost like your ego is constantly finding different ways to keep you safe. And it's like, oh my God, just let me be happy. So anyway, the head noise that you learn from learning to get through the shitty beginning of creating, it will help you throughout the rest of your life. Okay? Then my creations have messages in them from my higher self, right? And I didn't realize that until later on. And it helps a lot with self-reflection. So I would paint something, I still do this, and then stare at it for like an hour sometimes. Like one time, Noah came out from his room and I wasn't even sitting on the lounge. I was just sitting on like the armchair that I'm on right now, facing all of my paintings, just like tapping my fingernails on a bottle for fucking ages. And he walked out and he looked at me and he was like, what are you doing, psycho? And I was like, it was like dark too. I just had one lamp on. But I was staring at one of my paintings in a self-reflection mode, because I would look at it when it's done and I'm like, I understand all of my lessons now. I understand all of the things that I was learning to get me to the point where I was painting that specific thing, because I'm at a point now in my journey where I'm no longer just painting replications of things that already exist to learn how to master that specific style or to learn to paint objects or whatever it is that I was deciding to take on my path of learning. I'm at a place now where I'm just letting out whatever comes through, because I've learned how to do the basics of the thing. And so it's like, you know, the whole like learn the rules and then break them kind of situation. So I'm just like channeling shit through. And then I sit back and I look at it and I'm like, oh, wow, like this means so much, so fucking much goes into each painting. And I don't just mean each like brushstroke. And I don't just mean like, you know, the paint that I use. I mean like literally like life lessons, like so much wisdom is in each piece. And I know they look so simple. They just look so simple. And that's what I love about it. I fucking love that. Anyway, so it's great to get to that place, but it also shows you like, I guess like the immediate benefits of self-reflection. Like when you can sit back and look at your own creation and then realize things that you'd learned along the way. Like it triggers more lessons than I even realized. It's like these realizations just go like bing, 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 bing in my brain when I look at my own art. And I would not have learned that that's a thing that happens if I didn't get to this place. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, such a nice fucking gift. Like, what a way to zoom through life and like raise my consciousness and awareness in such a fun, beautiful way. Like, are you kidding? Yes, please. This is why I'm sharing this with you. I'm like, guys, you got to try it. Don't not. Anyway, so there's a lot of frustration in creating. And once I felt the frustration leave, it was replaced with the desire to master it. So that's kind of, I saw that as like reaching. No, I kind of saw it as something that I was capable of. I was like, okay, this has been shitty and it's been hard so far, but rewarding enough each time that I wanted to keep going. And when I clocked onto that, when I was like, okay, this is not going to be just like a weekend fad. I've done it for a couple of weekends now. I keep wanting to go back and buy more. I keep being like, oh, that last one sucked, but I learned X, Y, Z. So I'm going to try this next thing. I would buy more canvases and I'd buy more paint, or I'd go to op shops and I would get things that I could paint over the top of just to save money. Oh my God, there's a kookaburra out the window. It's just looking at me. Ah, so fucking cute. Oh my God, don't you reckon they just look like little fluffy dogs? Oh my God, I am so blessed to live next to the tree that I live next to. It's just like riddled with kookaburras and I hear them every fucking day, and every single time I hear them, I basically stop and just smile. I also have no idea what I was just talking about. Sorry. I just love them so much. But yeah, oh, that's right. I would get to the place of realizing that I actually want to master it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to commit to this. I'm just going to keep going. And it wasn't like a thing I wasn't like, I'm going to become a painter, but I was like, I'll give this a red hot fucking go. Like that's when the commitment really settled in. And I was like, I'm going to show myself what I'm made of in this. And along the way of doing that, I would just paint one thing and then be like, no, that sucks. Next one, paint the next thing. And then I'd be like, ugh, fucking whatever, learn something in that, and then paint the next one. And I kept learning what to do better next time. I kept learning to recognize the thing that it was that made me not like it about that piece and the thing that I wished I knew how to do. And then I would go and learn that thing and then I would apply it in this different way next time and it would be better. And I would see myself getting slightly better at it every single time I tried because I was so conscious each time of being like, okay, I fucked up in my own eyes anyway. What's the lesson here? What can I learn? Like, which skill do I need to acquire to make this easier on myself to be able to do the thing that's inside my head? Because there's always this like gap, right, between your skill and what's in your brain. That's a frustrating gap. And that's the gap we're learning to bridge. This also teaches you how to manifest. Creating teaches you the process of creating whatever reality you want. That's what the universe is always trying to teach you. That's why we keep having lessons to go through so you can create eventually the life that you want, the reality that you want. And the people who see that are the people who achieve amazing things. The people who don't see that are the people who are constantly whinging in victimhood mentality. So being creative teaches you those things, teaches you that process of how to manifest and how to create whatever life it is that you want by teaching you the self-awareness you need to get there. And it's nicer and a lot more fun than the universe just pushing you around to learn the lesson. Not that the universe is doing that in any kind of negative way. It's always for your own benefit. I know I've said that already, but I need to say it more. All right. So anyway, I learned how to sort of recognize what to do better next time. And I learned how to learn. So I started seeing like each, fucking mishap as a good thing. And basically what this was doing was teaching me to see quote unquote failures as lessons. Now that is a skill that you can take fucking to the bank. I feel like in my world, it's almost cliche, but I don't know if that's the case everywhere. So if it's not, and you need to hear this, anything that you deem as having failed at is a learning opportunity and it's a lesson. You haven't failed. You are just going a different road to get to the end result. Okay, so just because you thought you were going to go from A to B doesn't mean you can't get to B. It doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean that B is not happening for you. It just means that you have to go to like WXYZ first and then you can get to B. So it's not a failure. Like you didn't fail. You're not fucked. Get yourself out of the bin, you stupid idiot. Like, you fuck's sake. You're not failing. You're not behind. Stop comparing yourself. Everything's fine, babe. Oh my God. You're all good. You're just learning lessons. You're taking different paths, different roads. So anyway, that's one of the biggest things that you learn from being creative is that your failures are not fuck ups. It's not broken. It's not the end. They are lessons and you will become better at creating whatever it is, the thing that you want / your future reality, the more you recognize that this is just lessons upon lessons upon lessons. This also just like that helped me so much in life to the point where it's like what I'm always saying to you guys in the podcast and on Instagram and TikTok and stuff, like if you're in a situation where you're like, oh, life's really hard right now, there's a problem and blah, 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 and you're whinging about it to your friend or whatever, stop for a minute and be like, what is the lesson in this? Because you will fast track yourself the fuck out of that shitty time if you seek the lesson, if you start looking for it. And sometimes it'll be layered. You'll be like, oh, I got the lesson. But it's like, oh, how come I'm not out of this yet? And then you're like, bam, there's another lesson. You're like, oh my God. And then one day you realize it's actually all connected and you're never in or out of anything and you're in a constant flow. But like that, I can say that to you right now, but unless you're in the place in your life where you were right there, like just right there, ready to hear that, like that'll probably float out of your head and then come back in the future. But if you're in the place where you're like, oh my God, there is no start and end. It's all just middle with lessons and life being good and bad and easy and hard. It's all just one thing's happening for you after another. And you do have control over the situation. You can say yes to things and no to things. You'll be presented with opportunities galore. You'll you know, things will pop up in front of you, but you have to have your eyes open to see that these are lessons and opportunities. So I'm trying to teach you exactly how to open your eyes. Okay. I love you so much. I just got goosebumps from myself. Oh my God. This is a great episode. I'm obsessed with it. Anyway. Where am I? Okay, so yeah, being creative also taught me how to channel and to download. So like I was saying before, I would sort of self-reflect and then realize the lessons that were coming through in my paintings and the realizations I was having by doing them. I kind of recognized that I was like, oh, that's the same as when I'm just like getting a download from like the universe or talking to someone's like higher self or whatever during like a session, like a Reiki session or whatever. I was like, oh, it's all like coming from the same place. And I was like, okay, the more I paint, I've noticed that the clearer my channel gets because I'm essentially exercising that connection and that muscle. It's almost like, I know it's not a physical part of my body, but it's an energetic part of my body. And I'm made of energy, right? Like we all are. We're just dense energy. So is the ground that you're standing on. Like we're all just made of atoms buzzing around and like banging into each other. And so it's like, you know, this energy realm, I'm just going to position it above my head for an example or whatever. But let's just say I've got this energy realm above my head and it's the same as my brain muscle, except you can't see it. But like, just like your brain, you have to exercise it to be able to use it properly. Otherwise, like if we don't exercise our brains and our body, we become like sedentary and a bit fucking mushy. And then you risk like, you know, Alzheimer's and all kinds of things when you're older. So it's like great to keep your brain learning. It's great to keep your body moving so that you keep training your muscles. And it's also great to keep the connection with your higher self and your universal channel exercised, right? Like it's just like all the other stuff. And to do that, creating is like such an amazing way to tap into that channel because you go into this place where your human mind isn't in the way. When you're being creative, even if like some amazing spiritual breakthrough isn't happening at the time, you go into a flow state. And when you're in flow state, that is like opening the door to your channel, to your higher self. Whether you're aware of it or not, that's what you're doing. And stuff just comes through. And then you start to build the awareness of what's coming through. You start to be able to recognize it. You start to be able to see yourself from a perspective where you're like, oh, that thought isn't just me daydreaming about a thought. I just had a full-on vision about a possible future reality of myself. And if I take the steps towards that situation, I could totally make that happen. And like you're just sitting there like making a clay ceramic pot. But like that's what's going on inside your brain. And like you're healing when you're doing that. You're kind of like, you're allowing realizations to come through. You're allowing, you know, things from maybe your childhood to pop up. You're you're out of your fucking way. Your hands are busy. So you're not searching for something to do. You're not scrolling on your phone. And you get out of your own way. And oh my God, the things that can finally happen for your mind, body, and soul when you get out of your own way are so healing, so healing. So anyway, it strengthens your connection to that. So another great reason to start creating. You are welcome. Now, I started to learn that every being is creative. Now, this is where I'm at with this. And I'm still getting more information from my higher self about this and still like having more wisdom sort of come through about this very situation. But this realization is what I started to realize. This is what I woke up thinking about. It's been kind of popping up into my head a lot lately. And this is why this episode is here and happening right now, because I was like, oh my God, creativity is spirituality and spirituality and creativity are nature. Anyway, so let me just like go into that. There'll probably be another episode on this when I have more come through, was what I was trying to get at before. So, right. Every being is creative and we're all a part of nature, right? Mother Nature is the ultimate creation. She's forever evolving, forever seeding, blossoming, blooming, falling, and then seeding again. So it's like this infinite cycle of creation, right? That's what seasons are. Just ever blooming, ever creating, ever growing, ever birthing, just again and again and again. And so is the universe outside of our atmosphere of our planet. Like the universe is also just constantly expanding and ever creating. There's planets and stars that are dying, and then, you know, there's some that are appearing. I can't remember how they appear. What is it, like a gas explosion? Do you know what I mean? It's like There's always a coming and a going and a flow to it all. And we're a part of that. We're not different from it. Just because we are conscious, sentient beings. It's funny to say that because so many of us are so fucking unconscious of all of this. It's hilarious. But like compared to like, I don't know, a fucking armadillo, we're like pretty conscious, sentient beings. And we have this awareness that, you know, we have purpose in the world and all of this stuff, but we can't seem to see our connection to the world that we live in. It's like we've separated ourselves and compartmentalized so heavily that it's like we're not a part of it anymore. We live inside these, you know, concrete and wooden boxes that we call homes, and we step outside and we want to wear shoes and insect repellent. And like, I wear shoes and insect repellent, but like, do you know what I mean? We're just doing everything we can to be like, no fucking way to nature. And it's like, you're a part of nature. Like, what the fuck do you think you are? So anyway, you start to see creativity as the connection to nature that it is. And to create is to partake in your most natural calling. Like, we are a part of the breath of life. We are breathing. The trees are breathing. The earth is breathing. The ocean is breathing. Like, all of the animals are breathing. It's all in and out. It's all constantly birth and death. You know, it's like this constant flow. And we do that. Like, we create. So let's just say nature creates constantly. We also create. One of our biggest things is to create human life. And then we also love to create in other expressive ways. And we also need sustenance. We also need energy from the sun. Like, we need everything that every other fucking part of nature needs in one way or another. And we sit back and pretend like we're not part of it. And it's like we've become so far removed from that we sit here and think that, you know, life is hard and there's nothing good out there and you just die, and maybe, I don't know, maybe the universe has your back, maybe it doesn't, and I can't create because it's not my thing. Like, fuck off. Do all of that. Yes, life is hard. But it's also beautiful. And you are a creative being. You can create. And you are a part of nature. So start to fucking enjoy it a little bit more. It's beautiful. Anyway, as I started to learn to like master one thing after another, I'm in this like kind of cycle of my own of like from seed to bloom. So if you think about that whole kind of process I was just telling you about at the start, when I have the, you know, critical self-talk and I'm finding it hard to even do it to the point where I commit to it, to then I'm like doing it again and again, and I'm realizing and I'm reflecting and I'm connecting to the universe, and I'm now at a point where people love my art and I'm getting it out into the world. I'm blooming now. I went from a seed and then I started, I would say I'm actually still blossoming. I haven't fully bloomed in this one yet, but I'm blossoming. And like, I look back to my seed stage and I'm like, oh, I've come so far. I have goosebumps all over my entire body right now. But I've come so far, and I'm able to see that as my own version of what a tree does outside, or a flower does, or, you know, just any other part of nature. And so then, you know, like one day I'll master painting and I'll probably be like, okay, that's good. I did that. Now what? Like, I want to learn another thing. And maybe that will be singing or pottery. I love the idea of doing that. I get such sweaty hands. It'd probably be perfect for it. Anyway, so there's lots of different things that I want to do creatively. And there's always going to be lots of different lessons to learn in life, depending on where you're at, right? Like, I'm an incredibly highly self-aware being, yet I still learn new things about myself almost every day. And I'm like, wow, the fact that I'm learning them every day as well, though, I think is why I'm learning this so quickly. But one of the reasons I learn new things about myself every day is because I am being creative. And I'm going to get to a point where everything I'm doing has such high value because I'll be able to provide the world what it needs in so many different areas. Like, I'm already started, right? But I'm at my seed point when it comes to being alive and following my purpose. I've been learning and learning and learning and learning all up until this point. And I'm still, I feel, in my seed area. Like, and I'll be blossoming soon when it comes to this stuff with like self-development and helping you guys. Like, there's so many big, beautiful things I see for myself. And now that I've mastered creating with photography and running a business and now painting, I've done it enough times to understand the value it has in my everyday life and all these other areas. And I know that I'll be able to achieve all the things that I want to achieve because I know how to go through the process and I know to wait out in the hard points and stick through until it becomes this like obsessive thing that I want to master. And I know it's not for everyone. I know not everyone's going to go as hard at creating as I do. I don't expect that of you guys. I don't expect anything. I just want you to do stuff that's good for you. And if this podcast has ignited something in you, some little desire to like create something, please don't shut that down. Listen to that part of yourself. Like I was saying before, like if there's like a really kind of like a thing that you've always wanted to do, but you're like, oh my God, that's way too hard. Like I'm probably not going to be able to do that. Or like, I can't even imagine myself ever being able to do that well. Work your way to that. Start with something a little bit smaller or something you deem a bit easier. Take the easiest path. To do it the cheapest way. Remove all the blocks. If you're like, oh, I actually just would like to have a fucking art studio one day with XYZ in it, and you're like at a point where you're still working in an office job and you never even paint, that art studio dream is going to stay forever so far away from you because you've put a mountain between you and it. So instead of that, be like, I want to get a tiny little canvas and a few Posca pens and just draw squiggles on it and then see where that takes me. You'll start to get creative. You'll get the hunger for it. You'll want to do another one. You'll want to do another one. You'll want to try different areas of being creative. And then next thing you know, you'll explore your way into doing something that you actually enjoy doing. And maybe it'll become your hobby. Maybe it'll be a thing you do once a week. Maybe it'll be something you just do when you get a weekend without the kids and everyone leaves you alone. But the thing is, you're doing it, right? And if you weren't doing it, you wouldn't be gaining the self-awareness. You would have to gain that self-awareness in other ways. And the universe is not going to be shy on trying to teach them to you. This is a beautiful way to do it. You are nature and nature is creation. You are meant to create. You are here to create. It will strengthen the connection to you and nature and the universe and to yourself. And that's the main thing. Your purpose here on life is you. You're meant to find yourself. And then you're meant to do things that you like to do with what you have found of yourself, to then service the rest of the world and the community in whatever way it feels good, but follow joy and please create something. Leave something behind. I'm going to leave it there. I love you so much. Oh my God. I'm going to go cry now. That was amazing. Bye.